Why do the clocks on the wall and the calendar on your phone lie so shamelessly? They say it is Tuesday, noon, autumn. Yet inside, there is the ringing silence of a pre-dawn morning or, conversely, a thick midnight darkness, even though the sun is shining brightly outside. We are used to measuring life in years, days, and minutes, having completely forgotten that our inner world has its own non-linear clock face. This psychological test is not just another way to kill time. It is a way to synchronize watches with your soul, an attempt to understand what state your soul is in right now. Forget about logic and analysis today. Your main tool will be intuition. We will dive into your inner world to determine your true life stage and answer the main question that everyone asks themselves, sooner or later: who am I really? This is not just a personality test, it is an opportunity for deep self-discovery. And now, before we dive into the thick of things, a quick and honest answer in the comments. Type just one number. How old do you feel right now? Not according to your ID, but according to your inner state, your energy. Let's anonymously see who is in the majority here. Those who feel younger than their years, or those who are already a bit tired. This is important for understanding the material that follows. This small experiment is already part of our journey. Your willingness to look inside is the key. And since you are here, you are ready. Our work together requires concentration, so the best payment for our effort is the local currency. Your like on this video and a subscription to the channel, so you do not miss the continuation of this deep conversation. It will be an honest exchange of energy. So, for states, for times of day will appear before you. Your task is not to think. Just feel which of these landscapes resonates with you the strongest right now, in this very moment. This will be the picture test that opens the door to your subconscious. Are you ready? Then let's begin our personality test. If dawn is in your soul, this is the state that cynics contemptuously call naivety, and pragmatists call being out of touch with reality. But we know that this is the purest form of potential. It is the inner silence before the first chord of a grand symphony. It is a pristine blank canvas on which not a single stroke has been made yet. And it takes your breath away. Your inner critic seems to have stepped out for a smoke break. The skeptic has gone on vacation. And all accumulated life experience, with its scars and disappointments, has suddenly receded into the background, giving way to a barely audible whisper. What if it works this time? The dawn of the soul is a phenomenon independent of age. You can feel like a deep old man at 20, burned out and tired of everything. Or at 70, you can suddenly feel this morning chill of anticipation, this ringing hope that tickles your nerves and makes your heart beat a little faster. It is a state where the past ceases to be a prison or a standard for comparison. It just was. And all that matters is the boundless maybe that spreads out ahead like a misty haze over a river. It is in such moments that a person is closest to their true self, to that very core of personality that has not yet been overgrown with social roles, other people's expectations, and one's own fears. This is the ideal time to take a real character test and understand what you are truly made of. The great explorer of the depths of the human psyche, Carl Jung, did not pay attention to symbols and archetypes for nothing. Dawn is not just a time of day. It is a test for the archetype of the eternal child, or, if you like, the archetype of the hero at the beginning of the journey. A character who does not yet know what dragons he will have to fight, what treasures he will find, and what betrayals he will survive. He simply stands on the threshold, full of faith and energy. And therein lies his main strength and simultaneously his main vulnerability. He is open to the world like no one else. But that is precisely why he is so easy to wound. As Jung himself said, what you resist, persists. If you resist this state, trying to crush it with logic, saying it is stupid, I have no time for this, I am too old for this, it will not go anywhere, but will only turn into a dull longing for what never happened. Therefore, the main task at this stage is not to scare away this fragile, almost mystical state. Do not try to dissect it with logic. Do not drag it to the court of your old fears. And do not share it with those who are used to seeing the world exclusively in grey tones. Your task is to become a caring gardener for this inner light, not a harsh examiner. To protect it from the drafts of cynicism and water it with the faith that even the smallest ray can one day turn into a blinding sun. Allow yourself to be a little naive, a little illogical. Allow yourself to dream without looking back at the fear of failure. After all, right now your intuition is sharpened to the limit. This is the best intuition test you can imagine. What does this mean in practice? It means you need to catch ideas that come to mind, even the most absurd ones. Write them down. Start a notebook of dawn ideas. Not to immediately draw up a business plan, but simply to fix this energy, to give it the right to exist. Start doing what you have been putting off for a long time, not with the strain of I must, but with the lightness of why not. Sign up for tango lessons at 50. Why not? Start writing a book without knowing how it will end. Great. Paint a wall a crazy color. Perfect. This is a time of small, symbolic steps that confirm your inner intention to move forward. Each such step is an armful of brushwood into the fire of your new dawn. This state is a direct path to understanding your purpose, not in the global sense of saving the world, but in a very personal one. What makes me alive? The dawn of the soul highlights exactly those activities, thoughts, and aspiration that cause you genuine, childlike delight. This is your compass. Everything that causes boredom, despondency, a sense of duty is a legacy of the past. Luggage that it is time to leave on the platform. Now you have a unique opportunity to get on a new train without even knowing its final station. And that is the whole thrill. The lack of a clear plan in the dawn state is not a flaw, but an advantage. A rigid plan is a cage for nascent energy. It needs room for maneuver. Perhaps you think you have already understood the essence of dawn, that it is simply about hope and new beginnings. Do not jump to conclusions. What we discussed are just external manifestations, but there is also an internal, biochemical mechanism of this state, which is directly related to how we treat our energy. And understanding this mechanism is the key to learning how to summon this state at will, rather than just waiting for nature's mercy. More on that a bit later. Your environment plays a colossal role at this stage. Your soul is now like a newborn, extremely susceptible to the external environment. Therefore, conduct an audit of your social circle. There are battery people, and there are black hole people. You will feel them immediately. After communicating with the former, you want to fly, create, live. After the latter, you want to lie down and die, or at least eat something unhealthy to drown out the melancholy. So at the dawn stage, communication with black holes is contraindicated for you, like arsenic. This is not selfishness. This is safety engineering. Your task is to preserve that fragile energy balance that has appeared. Surround yourself with those who burn themselves, who will support your craziest ideas, or at least will not devalue them. Books, movies, music, all this is also your environment. Choose what inspires and fills you up, not what plunges you into despondency and reflection on the futility of being. Remember how children learn to walk. They do not read manuals, do not listen to lectures on biomechanics. They just stand up, fall, laugh, stand up again. They are not afraid to look stupid. They do not analyze their failures. They are led by a pure impulse of knowledge. Your soul in the dawn state is just such a child. It needs to be allowed to take uncertain steps, fall, and not scold itself for it. Failed the first attempt. Wonderful. This is not a failure. This is data acquisition. You now know how not to do it. This is priceless experience, bought for a minimal price. In the dawn state, there are no mistakes, there is only feedback from the world. And the more of this feedback you get, the faster you will find your path. This is true spiritual development, not in esoteric practices, but in living, direct contact with reality. Let me give you one more, perhaps unexpected piece of advice. Start paying attention to your dreams. Carl Jung considered dreams a direct portal to the unconscious, to that part of our psyche that knows much more about us than our rational ego. During the dawn period, this portal is especially open. Your subconscious will throw you clues, symbols, answers to questions you haven't even formulated. Do not try to interpret them according to dream books. This is profanation. Just write them down as they are, without analysis. Over time, you will begin to see recurring motifs, to catch the general tonality. This is your personal dialogue with the depth, and now is the best time to establish it. This is the most accurate personality test you can conduct for yourself, away from prying eyes. And one last thing. The state of dawn is a gift, but it is not an eternal gift. It is a window of opportunity that opens, so you can jump from the old reality into a new one. It cannot be canned or stretched for a lifetime. Its task is to give an impulse a push. Therefore, while enjoying this state, do not forget to act. Let these be small, almost imperceptible steps, but they must be there. The energy of dawn is given not for contemplation, but for creation. It is like fuel in a rocket tank before launch. It can be spent on heating the spaceport, or it can be used for a flight to the stars. The choice is yours. And let this picture test become for you a starting point on the way to the stars that are waiting just for you. If noon is in your soul, if dawn was a quiet watercolor painted on paper damp with fog, then noon is a massive canvas done in oil, where every stroke is confident and every color is saturated to the limit. There is no room for halftones, doubts, or questions of what if. There is only one answer ringing in the air: I can. This is the peak of your personal power, the zenith point where the shadow almost disappears under your feet, and the world seems clear, understandable, and absolutely, delightfully conquerable. Your energy is in full swing, goals are as clear as objects on a cloudless day, and your hands reach for work by themselves. The soul no longer wants to dream, it thirsts to embody, build, create, influence, and see the real fruits of its efforts. Before we dive into this blinding energy, a small technical moment. Creating such materials is not a sprint, but a marathon requiring full dedication. If this deep analysis resonates with you, the best support for us will be your subscription and like. This helps the algorithms understand that we are not just looking at pictures here, but doing serious work with the inner world. Thank you for being with us, and now, back to our sun at its zenith. The state of noon is the time of maximum extroversion of the soul. All the energy that accumulated and ripened at the dawn stage now rushes outward. This is a period of expansion, realization of ambitions, assertion of oneself in the material world. You know exactly what you want, and most importantly, you have the resources, mental, physical, and volitional, to achieve it. This is the time of directors, builders, surgeons, athletes at the peak of their form. It is the archetype of the ruler or warrior, who not only defends his borders, but actively expands them. In this state, you are most effective, productive, and persuasive. People are intuitively drawn to you, feeling this internal strength and confidence. You are the living embodiment of success, and it feels damn good. However, it is in this point of maximum light that the greatest danger lies. The great Carl Jung called this ego inflation. When a person identifies too strongly with their social role, with their successes and achievements, they risk losing touch with their true essence, with their soul. The ego swells to incredible proportions, and the person begins to believe that they are that very omnipotent God on Olympus. They forget that noon is just one of the 4 phases, not the end point. The meeting with oneself is one of the most unpleasant, Jung said. And in the state of noon, we do everything to avoid this meeting, because it would force us to look at our shadow, and at the zenith, as we remember. Shadows are hardly visible. What is the main trap of noon? That one can turn into a machine for achieving goals, into a perfect robot that has forgotten why it all started. You can build an empire, but lose the ability to enjoy a simple sunny day. You can conquer the whole world, but remain completely alone. Success in the noon state becomes a powerful drug. Each goal achieved brings only short-term satisfaction and is immediately replaced by a new, even more ambitious one. A person falls into the hedonic treadmill, where you need to run faster and faster just to stay in place. This is a direct path to burnout, not to ordinary fatigue, which can be relieved by a week's vacation, but to deep, existential burnout, when the very meaning of activity disappears. Therefore, your main task at this stage is not to burn out in this zenith. Act, yes, absolutely, but act consciously. It is important not just to do, but to understand why you are doing it. Ask yourself this question every day. The answer to make money or to prove to everyone is the answer of the ego. Look for the answer of the soul. What do you really want to get through this activity? A sense of safety, love, recognition, self-respect. When you understand the deep need behind your goal, your activity ceases to be fuss and is filled with meaning. You begin to value not only the result, but the process itself. Learn to rest. In the noon state, rest seems like an impermissible luxury, a waste of time. This is an illusion. Rest is not the opposite of work. It is its necessary part. It is like inhaling after exhaling. Try introducing an information diet into your life. Turn off your phone, the internet, notifications, for at least a few hours a day. Allow your brain to reboot. Do something absolutely useless from the point of view of productivity. Lie in a hammock. Look at the clouds. Pick a bouquet of wildflowers. It is in such moments of silence and doing nothing that the most brilliant ideas and solutions can come to you. The soul does not speak the language of KPIs and deadlines. It speaks the language of images, feelings, and silence. Another important aspect is delegation and trust. A person in the noon state often feels that no one will do it better than me. This is a direct path to shouldering everything and collapsing under this burden. The ability to trust other people, delegate tasks, and recognize someone else's competence is a sign not of weakness, but of mature strength. By allowing others to do their job, you not only free up your time and energy for strategic tasks, but also give other people the opportunity to grow and develop next to you. The creator of an empire differs from a simple craftsman precisely in that he knows how to build a system that works without his minute-by-minute control. But do not think that noon is only about work and business. This state can manifest itself in any sphere. For example, a young mother completely absorbed in caring for a child is also noon. All her energy is directed outward to creating a safe and developing world for another person. And here lies the same trap, to completely dissolve in the role of mom, forgetting that she is also a woman, a personality, a creator. Therefore, balance is important here too, finding time for yourself, for your hobbies, for socializing with friends, not to escape from the child, but to fill up with energy and return to him even more loving and resourceful. As Jung said, who looks outside, dreams, who looks inside, awakes. Noon is the time of looking outward to the maximum. Therefore, to maintain balance, it is necessary to direct the gaze inward with a conscious effort of will. Ask yourself questions. What am I feeling right now? What does my body really want? Am I betraying any of my important values in this race? This is not reflection that slows you down, but a short check with the internal compass that helps not to go off course. A few minutes of such mindfulness a day can save you from months and even years of moving in the wrong direction. An interesting paradox: it is during the period of maximum strength that we are most vulnerable to criticism that hits our ego. When everything works out, any failure or negative assessment is perceived as a personal insult, as a catastrophe. Develop anti-fragility in yourself. Learn to perceive criticism not as a verdict, but as feedback. Separate your personality from your results. Your project may fail, but that does not mean that you failed. It was just an experiment that gave a negative result, which is also valuable information. The less you depend on external assessments, the more stable your inner strength. Do not think that noon is the crown of creation and the final goal. It is an incredibly powerful and productive stage, but it only prepares the soil for the next, no less important period, sunset. If at the noon stage you do not learn to value what you create, do not fill your activity with meaning, then at the sunset stage you will simply have nothing to comprehend and nothing to be grateful for. Therefore, enjoy your strength, act, build, create, but do it with heart, remembering that your most important project is not a business empire and not an ideal family. It is your own holistic and harmonious personality. If sunset is in your soul, after the blinding, almost aggressive clarity of noon, comes the time of soft, golden light. Sunset is not an end and not a fading, as is commonly believed in our culture obsessed with eternal youth and productivity. This is the time of harvest. This is the phase when stormy activity gives way to deep contemplation, and the desire to achieve gives way to the ability to appreciate what has already been achieved. The air becomes cooler, shadows lengthen, and the sharp contours of the world soften, painted in warm, nostalgic tones. The soul no longer rushes into battle, it wants to comprehend the path traveled, enjoy the fruits of its labors, and let go of what no longer serves it. This state is perhaps least understood by those stuck in eternal noon. For them, sunset is a synonym for defeat, old age, uselessness. But as Carl Jung said, the noon of life is the beginning of the evening. This is not a tragedy, but a natural and necessary transition to another form of existence, to another type of wisdom. Wisdom that is born not from books and not from struggle, but from lived experience, accepted and digested by the soul. If noon was the time for building a house, then sunset is the time when you sit in a cozy armchair on the veranda of this house, wrapped in a blanket, and look with gratitude at your creation. The main emotion of sunset is gratitude, not formal, polite gratitude, but a deep feeling of appreciation penetrating the whole being for what was, for victories and even for defeats, which turned out to be the most valuable lessons. In this state, the soul acquires an amazing ability. It begins to see beauty in imperfection. Scars on the soul and body no longer seem like ugliness, but are perceived as a unique pattern, as a map of experienced adventures. Grievances that poisoned existence for years suddenly lose their toxic charge. You look at your enemies and instead of anger you feel compassion, because you understand that they, like you, were simply playing their roles in the great play of life. In this state, a most important alchemical process takes place, the transformation of memory. Memory ceases to be a warehouse of compromising material on oneself and others, and turns into a treasury. The soul, like a wise editor, rewrites the history of its life, changing not the facts, but the attitude towards them. A painful breakup is now seen not as a tragedy, but as a liberation that opened the way to a new, true love. Dismissal from a dream job is not seen as a failure, but as a necessary push that forced you to find your true calling. This is not self-deception or rose-colored glasses. This is finding wholeness. When you accept all your experience without crossing out the unsuccessful chapters, the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents. Jung once said. And the sunset state is your chance to free your children and yourself from this burden. By comprehending and accepting your path, you stop projecting your unfulfilled dreams and unrealized ambitions onto others. You become self-sufficient. You no longer need someone else to live life for you, correct your mistakes, or achieve what you did not achieve. You give yourself and others the right to be themselves, and this is the greatest gift. However, do not think that sunset is a passive, sleepy phase. This is a time of active internal work, and the main task here is to learn to let go. Letting go of control. At noon, you were used to controlling everything, projects, people, your own life. At sunset, you come to the understanding that total control is an illusion. The world is much bigger, wiser, and more complex than your ideas about it. And the highest form of strength is not to keep everything in your hands, but to trust the flow of life, to allow events to happen. This does not mean becoming a weak-willed chip of wood, it means becoming an experienced surfer, who does not fight the wave, but uses its energy to move forward. You need to let go not only of control, but also of things, people, roles. The children have grown up and started their own families. Your role as a guardian parent is complete. It is time to let them go and find a new role for yourself. Has your career come to an end? The role of a successful professional has been played. It is time to applaud yourself and look for a new field for self-realization. It can be painful. It can feel like a loss. But any void formed after you let something go will definitely be filled with something new if you, of course, allow it to happen. Nature abhors a vacuum, and the soul does too. One of the most difficult moments of sunset is accepting one's own aging, physical changes. Our civilization does everything to make us fear and be ashamed of this. But from the point of view of the soul, the aging of the body is a natural process of liberation. Energy that used to be spent on maintaining external beauty and physical strength can now be directed inward, to spiritual development, to creativity, to the transmission of wisdom. Your body becomes not an object for decoration, but a faithful companion with whom you have traveled a long way, and to whom you are grateful for its service. If you have watched this far and are ready for the most important thing, just put a plus in the comments or drop any emoji. It will take a second, but we will know that you are with us and ready for initiation into the secrets of the last, most mystical phase. And now to the essence. At the sunset stage, you have a unique opportunity to become a mentor, not because you have read many smart books, but because you have lived your life. Your experience is priceless capital, and now is the time to share it, but not in the form of moralizing and unsolicited advice, but in the form of stories, metaphors, personal example. A wise mentor does not give ready-made answers. He asks the right questions that help the other person find their own answer. He does not drag anyone along, but lights the path that the other will walk himself. This is the highest form of realization, when your ego no longer requires applause, but simply rejoices in the success of others. Sunset is the ideal time for creativity, not to become a famous artist or writer, but to express what has accumulated in the soul. Drawing, sculpting, music, gardening, cooking, it doesn't matter what it is. Any creative act in this state becomes a form of meditation, a way of dialogue with the unconscious. You create not for the result, but for the sake of the process, and that is why the results often exceed all expectations. You finally allow yourself to be imperfect, to play, to experiment. And it is in this freedom that true art is born. This is your personal, most accurate personality test, which shows how much you were able to free yourself from the tyranny of the internal perfectionist. Remember, we said that noon is a time of expansion. Well, sunset is a time of integration, of gathering oneself into a single whole. You begin to accept your contradictions, your light and dark sides. You understand that you'll shadow those qualities that you did not like in yourself. And it is not an enemy, but a source of enormous strength if you make friends with it. As Jung said, there is no light without shadow and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. It is in sunset that you have a chance to achieve this wholeness, to become not good, not correct, but real, alive, whole. And this feeling of wholeness gives an incomparable sense of peace and inner harmony. If night is in your soul, and so, when the sun has disappeared behind the horizon and the earth has given up its last heat, the quietest, most mysterious, and perhaps most underestimated time of day begins. Night. In our culture, it is customary to fear it. Night is a metaphor for depression, loneliness, death, the unknown. We turn on artificial light, turn on the TV, clog the airwaves with meaningless noise, just so as not to remain alone with this thick, velvet darkness. But the soul, tired of the external world, of its brightness, bustle, and endless demands, chooses this time itself to go inward. This is not escape and not defeat. This is a pilgrimage to oneself. The state of night is a phase of deep self-knowledge, a time of dreams, intuition, and direct dialogue with the unconscious. If dawn was the birth of the ego, noon was its triumph, and sunset was its integration, then night is the time when the ego voluntarily falls silent, giving way to something much larger, ancient, and wise within us. The external world with its goals, plans, and social games loses its significance. The only thing that matters is what happens in the depths. This is the time when all masks are taken off, even those you yourself have long believed in. You are left alone with the truth about yourself, and this can be both scary and incredibly liberating. Carl Gustav Jung devoted his entire life to exploring this inner cosmos. He called it the collective unconscious, a reservoir of symbols, archetypes, and instincts common to all mankind. And it is at night, when our rational sensor mind falls asleep, that we get access to this treasury. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart, he wrote. Night is that very time when vision clears. In the dark, external stimuli disappear, and you finally begin to see what is really important. You hear the quiet whisper of intuition, which during the day was drowned out by the roar of thoughts. You find answers to questions that have tormented you for years. And these answers come not from logic, but from deep, sudden insight. The main task at this stage is not to be afraid of the darkness and silence. Do not try to run away from yourself into bustle, work, alcohol, or endless scrolling of the feed. Your task is to create a safe space for this immersion. This can be a real place, a room where no one will disturb you. But it is more important to create such a space inside. Stop judging and evaluating yourself. Stop demanding of yourself to be productive, cheerful, normal. Allow yourself simply to be. To be sad if you are sad. To be tired if you are tired. To be no one without roles, titles, and regalia. It is in this emptiness and silence that new stars begin to be born. What exactly should you do in this state? Practically nothing. And this is the most difficult thing for a modern person. We are used to the idea that to solve a problem, you need to do something. But in the state of night, on the contrary, you need to stop doing. Stop fighting, analyzing, planning. You need to surrender. Trust the process. It is as if a caterpillar, turning into a butterfly, began to panic inside the cocoon and try to optimize the transformation process. It would simply die. Its task is to freeze and allow nature to do its job. Your soul in the night state is just such a caterpillar in a cocoon. Any fuss can disrupt the mystery of transformation. This is a time for practices that calm the mind and connect with the body. Meditation, slow walks in nature, silent contemplation of the fire in the fireplace or the starry sky. Journaling, but not to describe events, but to record fragments of dreams, sudden thoughts, strange images that float up from the depths. This is not self-digging, which only makes things worse. This is observation. You become an impartial researcher of your inner world who curiously maps uncharted territories, without judgments and evaluations, just recording what is. In the state of night, a revaluation of all values takes place. What seemed incredibly important at noon, career, status, money, suddenly may turn out to be absolutely meaningless. And some trifle that you never paid attention to, the singing of birds outside the window, the taste of simple bread, the warm touch of a loved one suddenly fills with a huge, universal meaning. This does not mean that you need to drop everything and become a hermit. It means that you begin to see the world in true proportions. You free yourself from goals imposed by society and begin to hear the true desires of your soul. Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible, Jung said. During the night period, you may feel this loneliness especially acutely, because the things that concern you now, questions of the meaning of life, the nature of fear, the essence of love, are really difficult to discuss with most people. And this is normal. It does not mean that you have become weird or something is wrong with you. It means that you have reached a new level of depth. Look for those few who are able to speak with you in this language. 1 or 2 such interlocutors are enough. And if they are not there, the books of great philosophers, mystics, and poets will become your best friends. It is in this darkness, in this silence, in this temporary dying of the old personality, that the seed of a new dawn is born. But this will be a completely different dawn. Not naive and unconscious, as in the first time, but wise, born from the depth, having passed through all 4 phases. The cycle closes, but goes to a new turn of the spiral. Having passed through the night, you will never be the same again. You acquire an inner core that does not depend on external circumstances. You find peace that cannot be bought for any money. You begin to trust life and yourself. Herein lies the great paradox. To find the true light, you must first dare to enter your deepest darkness. To gain true strength, you must first allow yourself to be absolutely vulnerable. To be truly born, you must first die to your old, false personality. The night of the soul is not a curse. It is an initiation, the great sacrament of transformation, after which you return to the world, but in a completely different quality. You become one who not only lives, but knows why he lives. And this knowledge glows from within, like a quiet, unfading flame capable of lighting the way not only for you but also for those who decide to follow you. So we have come full circle. Dawn, noon, sunset, and night. Whatever time the clock on the internal dial of your soul shows now, remember, this is just a phase, not a verdict. Each stage is important. Each carries its own gifts and its own lessons. The main thing is to live it consciously, without resisting the natural flow of life. Write in the comments which stage turned out to be the most unexpected or misunderstood for you. Your feedback is fuel for our next journeys into the depths of the human soul. Thank you for walking this path with us. Subscribe so as not to miss the new synchronization of watches.